This is the new Cupra Tavascan, a fully electric coupe-style SUV from the Spanish brand, and I'm here in Spain to drive it, which is kind of ironic because it's actually closer to Australia where this car's made. China, that's right. I'm going to tell you everything you want to know about this car before it arrives in Australia very soon. I can't tell you the pricing, but I can tell you a fair bit of other stuff. If you haven't already, please ring the bell and make sure you've subscribed, and let's check it out. Now, as I said, Cupra hasn't yet provided the full details and specifications and final pricing for this model range, but there will be a couple of different versions available. The entry-level one will start under $70,000. Between 65 and 70 is what the brand is telling us. And there's also going to be this one here, the all-wheel drive, more powerful, more highly specified version, which should tick under 80 grand. It should be in the 70s. So I think that for that kind of money, I mean, you've got some pretty stiff competition. I'll name some good rivals soon, but it is going to come comprehensively equipped for the money with some really great features, including these amazing triangulated LED headlights, beautiful big wheels, and a stunning interior with a big touchscreen media system with actual pretty good usability to that screen, great seats, and some really nice trims on the inside as well. But hey, let's talk about those alternatives because there are some really competitive ones in this segment. Okay, so let's say the price is around $65,000 to $70,000 for the base model. There are plenty of really great options out there. Some that might not necessarily be anywhere near as thrilling as this to drive, like the Toyota BZ4X and the Subaru Solterra. I'll put the links to both of those reviews in the description below, but they're both compelling in their own ways. But I personally would think that maybe the Kia EV6 might be a better alternative to this. It's got the sort of coupe crossover styling thing going on, and it does have a bunch of different variants available, including a high-spec GT version, which is manic. It is an absolute machine, that car, but hey, it's also $100,000 and this isn't going to cost that much. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? And another alternative that I really still rate is the Hyundai Ioniq 5. It's just been updated with a few new variants and trim lines, and it does offer a Ioniq 5N top spec model. Again, $120,000. It's crazy, that car. It's really fast, but it's also quite expensive and not necessarily in the same sort of realm as this sort of car. So what do you think it competes with most? I'd love to know your thoughts on that because this is kind of interesting. Obviously, there's also things like the Skoda Enyaq and the Volkswagen ID4 and 5 range coming soon. So yeah, it's getting pretty competitive in that segment, not to mention all the newcomers. Wow, Cupra might have its work cut out for it. It's not a small thing, this one, about 4.7 meters in length. And yes, I think it's actually one of the most convincing looking coupe style SUVs or crossover models that I've come across, because I don't think it's ugly at all. I think it's got some really amazing curves and lines and design to it, and just the way that it all comes together is beautiful in my opinion. Now, I also am maybe not as keen on this illuminated Cupra badge at the back, but apparently that's something that people really like. And yes, let's have a look in the boot and see what we are dealing with. Yes, an electric tailgate for this one, and if you've already seen my preview of this car, you will know that it does have a pretty big boot, and it's just as big as it was when I tested it in Australia, or had a look at it in Australia at least, and still with plenty of features. So you've got an LED light, a 12-volt port, shopping bag hooks on both sides, and little storage caddies on the sides as well. One thing that you won't find in here is a spare wheel. Underneath the boot floor there is storage area for your charging cables, and yes, you can fold that up, and you can even lower that floor down if you want to, if your cable's at home or whatever. So it is still a pretty practical vehicle, but no spare, and that might rule it out for some, but lots of EVs don't have a spare. The interior of this car is lovely. Let me tell you that. It does feel very special. Like I said, if you've seen my preview, you'll know that it does have some amazing interior trim, details and finishes. This blade that runs across the entire width of the cabin, and also these gill-like finishes as well. I love this spine that sits in between the seats as well. And these seats themselves are excellent. Super comfy, beautiful trim finishing, and it just looks and feels very different to anything else from the Volkswagen Group, if I'm honest. And look, I also think that you will have to take a bit of time to get used to this screen. It's not the easiest thing, and I'm not going to go into too much detail today on what it does and doesn't do well, but I will just give you a quick glimpse at some of the things that you might want to keep in mind. So look, you've got quite a lot of climate control stuff on the screen. There are little dials down here or sliders down below so you can adjust things on the go if you need to. And you will have to do your fan speed through the screen itself, through the climate screen. So if you turn that off, then you can see what you've got here. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Struggling for signal where I am right now. Let me just turn the fan back down, because it is very hot outside. And you've also got some flip down options here. So I love that you can quickly turn off your lane keeping and your speed sign recognition when you get in the car. If you don't want to have those things on, that's just pretty handy. Plenty of other menus to play with on this screen. So look, I think that it does have a lot to learn, and you will learn it pretty quick if you're the sort of person who likes to spend time learning that sort of thing. I think you're going to enjoy doing it because it's a bit software-y, this car, and I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. All right, so otherwise you've got this small digital instrument cluster in front of the driver. There's also these controls on the steering wheel. They're haptic, and I don't like them because you bump them when you're driving. You've got drive mode buttons there as well, and your light controls are over here. You've got no rear window switches. You have to press this little button in order to make the rear windows go with those two front switches, but all of it is pretty learnable, I would say. You've got a wireless phone charger down there, little storage tray there, cup holders between the seats, and an openable armrest area as well. So practicality, pretty good. Bottle holders in the doors as well, as you would expect. And this version also comes with a big glass roof, and that's pretty neat. It also comes with a standard surround view camera system, which is a nice addition. You don't get that in the base model car though. So yeah, what do you think? I think it's a pretty nice interior. I'm going to show you the back seat very quickly. Okay, this seat's set for my driving position. Yes, it is a pretty roomy back seat. Look how much space I've got in front of my legs at 6 foot or 182 centimeters. And headroom is actually not that bad either. Like, it does have the swoopy roofline, but it's not eating into the headspace too much. That's pretty clever design, I reckon. You can fit 3 adults across the back if you need to. There are ISOFIX points in the window seats, 3 top tethers as well, a flip down armrest with cup holders as you would expect. You've got this handy load through port or ski port, which is very good. And yes, you do have the amenities you would expect for a family friendly vehicle like this. Directional air vents. There's also seat heating in the outboard seats of this high grade version, and there's climate control as well, but the car's off, so you can't see it. Little storage things on the back of the seats as well. And it all looks and feels really, really plush in here. And it's a very nice experience. Your kids are going to love it. They're going to be lucky if they get to sit back here. All right, let's talk about powertrains for the Cupra Tavascan range. The entry-level endurance model will have a punchy 210 kilowatt rear-wheel drive powertrain, and that will offer plenty of torque. It does still have a very speedy 0 to 100 time, but if you want the fastest version, you have to choose the more highly spec'd VZ version, which gets a 40 kilowatt increase in terms of its power output. More torque as well. It's got dual motor all-wheel drive, and the 0 to 100 time for it is 5.5 seconds. The other one, the rear-wheel drive version, 6.8, so still pretty speedy. Both of these things will be quick. Okay, charging is on the driver's side in Australia, passenger side for Europe. Look at this. You've got a Type 2 combination plug, AC at the top, obviously, 11 kilowatt maximum charging rate. You'll see that you need 3-phase power and how long it might take if you can get 11 kilowatt charging connected on your screen now. And also, yeah, it's got DC charging. You'll see the DC rate for both versions of this car on your screen. And yeah, it's got a pretty big battery pack. Now, you'll see on screen now the capacity that this vehicle has in terms of battery size, and there is quite a bit of EV driving range, at least claimed driving range. The entry-level version, the Endurance, has a lot, and this one here, the all-wheel drive version, has a little bit less because it's more about performance. So let's go for a drive and see if it lives up to that ideal. So just driving through some back streets in Barcelona right now on our way to find some twisty roads and have a bit of fun in this car. The Tavascan is proving to be pretty comfortable in this sort of situation with less than perfect surfaces underneath, similar to what you might find in Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, wherever else in Australia you might need to think about. Yeah, the surfaces here are kind of similar, but I have to say, for the most part, very comfortable so far and very enjoyable in terms of the manageability of this car. It's got nice throttle response, good braking feel as well, but also it is quite sort of assertive with the way that the power comes on. It does have that EV, all the torque, all at once sort of feeling to it, and it's a bit of a zoomer if you want it to be. I'm driving in eco mode right now because I just want to try and maximize as much battery as I can before we get into the mountains and see what the Tavascan is actually all about, because it's supposedly pretty sporty to drive. Barcelona is now behind me. We're in the hills outside of town where we should be able to see a little bit more about how this car handles itself. It is the all-wheel drive version. It does have immense power and torque, and these corners are telling me that this is a dynamic feeling EV. More dynamic than some of the other EVs out there. Very, very fast, as you would expect for a dual motor all-wheel drive vehicle like this, but with a different type of temperament, I guess, in terms of the drive experience. So I guess the dynamics of it are different. It does have a lot more adjustability to the way that you can control things in this car. There's multiple drive modes. You can configure the driving dynamics to how you want it to be. In terms of the ride, in terms of the steering, the responsiveness, the all-wheel drive system, all that stuff is adjustable through the individual mode. Or you can just hit the Cupra button on the steering wheel to siphon between those modes, put it into Cupra mode, which is like the sporty mode or the preferred mode for Cupra people, and you can feel a lot more of the surface below in the Cupra mode because it does tailor the suspension to feel more firm. And you might love that. You might think that you get a bit more intrinsic connectedness to the road below, and you do. And it's also a ridiculously speedy car if you are driving it fast and assertively like I am right now. And look, there's no doubt this feels better than a Model Y in terms of the dynamism. In my mind, it's just got a more natural feel to the steering, and it's also got, like I said, a lot more adjustability to those drive elements that you might want to play with. Push through this corner here, there's plenty of grip. Whoa, yeah, that is properly fast. I maybe wish there was just a little bit more brake pedal feel. I've got the brakes set to the regen mode right now, so they are doing a little bit of the braking for me as I lift off the accelerator and then push down on the pedal. Yes, it is pretty good at the whole dynamism thing. Like, actually, really good. If Cupra mode is not up to your preferences, then there's also a performance drive mode, which makes the pedals feel a little bit more weighted underfoot. So just maybe a little bit more traditional in terms of the, I guess, the performance vehicle feel factor. But to me, it doesn't matter which drive mode you're in, you're getting a good drive, actually a fantastic drive in the Cupra Tavascan. This is a very compelling alternative to something like a Tesla Model Y. It has a beautiful driving dynamic to it. You can still feel the weight, but there's a lot to like about this big SUV. It offers a lot of space, practicality, comfort, and features. So, how much should it cost? You let me know what you think in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and I'll see you later. Adios.